Hey guys, welcome back to my studio. I have an unusual surprise for you because today I will teach you how to draw a black rose step by step. But that's not all. I will share a crazy true crime story from the Soviet Union. This crime has an unbelievable ending, where one of the main items of evidence was a black rose. So, I hope you've got your pencils, paper, erasers, and blending sticks ready if you want to follow along. Or just relax and listen to the story. Okay, so as always, you want to start with a light sketch, starting with a simple geometric shape and then breaking it down into smaller forms and details. Here I'm using a 3B pencil. At this stage you can use anything that is not too soft or too hard. Okay, so it's a real life crime that happened in Moscow in the 70s, where a beautiful wedding ended in a double homicide. In the beginning it looked like a straightforward crime, which would be relatively easy to solve, but turned out to be very twisted and unbelievable. As I said before, everything happened at the wedding. It was the post-ceremony celebrations that were held in a restaurant. Alcohol, music band, presents, everything seemed normal and merry until someone has noticed that the bride, Tanya, has disappeared. A worried groom, Nikolai, went to look for her. It must be a prank or something, he thought. She must be hiding somewhere. After looking for her for some time, he sees one of the back rooms, which was used as a storage space. Nikolai sees his bride on the floor, and then he notices blood on the white dress. Okay, let's have a look at the drawing. This sketch will be available on Patreon and YouTube for those of you who may not want to go through all the drawing steps and want to get straight into shading. Okay, now let's start shading. I'm working with graphite, and it's a highly smudgeable material, so I will focus on the top parts of the drawing and then move lower, marking the values down without worrying about details at this stage, and later smudging and using eraser to bring out more highlights. For smudging you can use smudge sticks, rolled up paper towels, or anything else on hand. Just don't use your fingers or you may ruin the paper you are drawing on. You kind of want to work in layers with smudging in between. That way you can work up to the level of detail that you actually desire in your work and build up the darker values in the shadow areas gradually. It's easier to achieve the desired results with this layering approach and avoid common beginner mistakes. You know, when you're not sure if you've gone too dark, too light, and you keep applying more, erasing it, and applying more and erasing it. So yeah, make sure you stick to the layering. Always works. Now, let's get back to our crime. He grabs her by the shoulders and tries to shake her into consciousness. In the meantime, the brother of the bride, Ivan, also goes looking for her. He's been celebrating for a while and quite drunk. He stumbles into the room and sees his new brother-in-law over his dead sister. "You're murderer!" he screams, grabs a meat tenderizer that just happened to be there. Remember, it was a restaurant's storage room, and attacks the groom, killing him instantly. To the sounds of the screams, the rest of the family comes running. The fight breaks out and militia is called in. Militia is what the police were called in Soviet Union. Double homicide at the wedding. Even these days that would be something horrific, but in those quiet Soviet times it was simply unbelievable. Ivan, the brother of the bride, was arrested on the spot for the murder of the groom. But it wasn't as easy to determine who killed the bride. The forensics team determined that the bride was stabbed with a long, sharp object, but nothing like that was found at the scene. Investigation started to look at the family members to find some information on who could possibly be a suspect. Criminal investigator Grigory Praznikov, this is his photo, this is what he looks like these days, of course he was much younger then, and decides to look at the wedding photos, and quite quickly he finds a man who was talking to the bride and who she is seen on the photos leaving with. The photos are blurry and no one seems to know who he is. Is he the murderer? How is he to be found when all the detective has are just few blurry pictures? Investigator goes back to the families, but there's a real war brewing. The parents of the bride are blaming the groom's family, and the parents of the groom are convinced that the bride's family are criminals, so they can't get any useful information out of them. But the breakthrough in the case came from the bride's younger 7-year-old sister Olya. She said that the day before the wedding she saw her sister Tanya, the bride, meeting with a stranger just outside their house, and that stranger gifted her sister a black rose. Tanya took the rose and cried for a while, young sister told the investigators. The detective asked the other household members if they know anything about that, and Tanya's mother showed him the black rose. By the way, if you like this video and would like to see more, go to my Patreon page. There you'll be able to vote for the next videos, place requests, and get all the extra tips, follow-alongs, more videos, prizes, and of course more relaxation. I look forward to seeing you there. I am placing some paper under my arm to minimize the unwanted smudging. It also protects the drawing from any oils or moisture that your skin can deposit onto the paper. Any clean piece of paper would work, but something semi-transparent like the paper I'm using here also gives you a really good chance to glance over the whole composition. It just makes it so much easier to see what you're doing overall, rather than completely covering your artwork. Back to the story. It was a real fresh flower that was painted black. Super symbolic, thought Vladimir Pichugin, who was also an investigator on the case. You can see him on the photo here. Forensic testing showed that the rose was painted with a very specific black spray paint. It was developed for a car manufacturing and wasn't available for general population, just for an easy purchase. Detectives narrowed in on a few possible places of interest. They pretended to be customers and used that to look around. In one of those car workshops, they have noticed a guy that really looked like he could possibly be a stranger from the wedding photos. They confirmed all his details. He was an unmarried 26-year-old called Vitaly. His boss claimed Vitaly was a very hard worker, as well as reliable and a lovely guy. From his co-workers, detectives found out that he borrowed a formal suit from his colleague recently. They took the suit into the forensics lab and found some minuscule drops of the black paint, but no blood, not even traces. Okay, so here I am using a softer pencil. Make sure that you use correct pencils for the values that you are trying to create. Use harder pencils for lighter areas and softer pencils for darker shadows. You can easily use 8 and 9B graphite for the darkest values and HB to 3B for lighter ones. Well, that is my preference, but some artists go as hard as 2, 3H for the semi-highlights. That's why it's really important to actually experiment to find the perfect tools for you, and over time, as you keep practicing, you will be reaching out for the pencil that you need for the particular job without even paying attention to it, so it'll actually happen automatically. But remember, for that you need to practice, so practice makes perfect. Well, in some cases anyway. Back to the story. Investigators assigned a team to tail Vitaly and track his movements. The next morning, Vitaly was waiting by Tanya's family home. Her 7-year-old sister got out of the building and went to school. Vasily followed the little girl, and the undercover officer followed him. Vasily ran up to the girl and grabbed her. The agent broke his cover, and Vasily was arrested. Both the suspect and the 7-year-old Oля were in militia, the USSR police. "Yes, it was him," said young Oля. "That's the guy my sister met with. He's the one that gave her the black rose." Detectives were glad, as they truly believed that he was the one who killed Tanya. The militia officers questioned him. At first he resisted, but then he started his confession, and it turned out to be the craziest story. "I couldn't have killed Tanya. I loved her more than life itself, but we couldn't be together," he started his story. He was following 7-year-old Oля because he wanted to talk to her. He told the detectives that 7-year-old Oля is not Tanya's sister. She is her daughter, and he is her father. Years ago, when Tanya was almost 14 years old, she was walking through a park late at night and was attacked by a couple of hooligans. Vasily, who was 18 years old at the time, happened to be walking by. He stood up for Tanya and got badly beaten up. Vitaly ended up in the hospital for weeks. Tanya visited her savior a few times while he was recovering, and they ended up falling in love. Even though Tanya was not even 14, she looked much older and could easily pass for a 16-17-year-old, her cousin said. She told Vitaly she was 16, and their romance flourished. Okay, so mechanical erasers are very handy, but if you don't have one available and you don't want to run to the art shop to get one urgently, You can always just slice a small piece of your regular rubber and use the sharp edge. I actually show that in some of my earlier drawing videos, so you can look that up there. Or, you know, it's just easy enough. Just a craft knife and a thin little slice. You will go through your erasers very quickly doing that, but yeah, that will save you a trip to the art shop. Okay, let's get back to Moscow. In Soviet Union, all males have to serve in the army at around 18 years of age. So for their last date before Vitaly had to go to the army, he brought Tanya a white rose as a symbol of his pure love. Vitaly went to serve, and Tanya had a baby 9 months later. Her mother was very strict and felt ashamed for her daughter, so Tanya's parents registered a little baby girl as their child and Tanya's sister. When Vitaly finished his army service, the first thing he did was to come and see his girlfriend. She was so happy to introduce him to his newborn daughter, but Vitaly got cold feet and his love for Tanya perished. Tanya and Vitaly had no contact, and years later, when Tanya was getting married, she sent him a wedding invitation. Vitaly decided to gift her a black rose as a symbol of the ending. He couldn't find one, so he spray painted a white rose. He met up with Tanya and gifted it to her a day before her wedding. He visited the wedding as well, but left very quickly as he felt uncomfortable being there. The only reason he went after a 7-year-old Oля was to talk to her, as he was her father after all. One more drawing tip for you guys. When you start drawing, you will find that you'll use each media for a prolonged period of time. But as you get closer to the completion of your actual drawing, artwork that you're working on, it's best to have them all handy, as you will find yourself swapping between erasers, pencils, smudge sticks, and all other tools every few seconds. It will help you refine all the surfaces of your drawing and really give it the finished look. So make sure you keep them all handy. A little drawing hack for you guys: when you use erasers other than putty rubber, you can get a bunch of how would you call it, you know, that sort of eraser dust, you know, the little bits that your rubber leaves behind. You can always brush it off with your hand, but then you run into a problem of smudging, especially if you're working with soft graded pencils, you know, like 8B, 9B. They're really easy to smudge. Blowing those little bits away is a good way to get rid of them too, but you have to be careful not to spit at your own creation. Using a feather doesn't smudge graphite like a hand would, and no spitting is involved. Actually, one of my students showed me that hack, so I hope you guys get a good use out of that one too. Okay, back to the story. The search of Vitaly's house revealed some strange knives that were meticulously cleaned and some other illegal weapons. Militia couldn't prove their suspicions, but Vasily was imprisoned for a year because of the illegal items that the search has revealed. But almost a year later, another bride is murdered in a similar fashion. Detectives tried to find any similarities in the guest list and decide to look through the photos of the second murderous wedding. And that's when they come across an astonishing coincidence. It was the same photographer, the 36-year-old Sergei Petrov, that photographed both weddings. Investigators quickly decided to search his house, where detectives found wedding veils from both of the murdered brides, killers' trophies. After psychological assessment, Sergei was found fit to stand trial. He was found to be guilty and sentenced to death by a firing squad, which was carried out 1.5 years later. His reasons for killing these women was that he considered them as being dirty after brides had confided in him about their premarital relationships. Vitaly also served his time, and after his release became closer with his daughter Olga and her family. What do you guys think? It's definitely a story with a twist. Let me know if you found it interesting, and I really look forward to reading your comments. So here I am adding the final little details with the mechanical pencil. And here is the finished drawing. If you would like to watch a video on how to turn this rose study that we've just completed into an artwork, check out my Patreon page. That video is already available over there. I would also like to say a big thank you to my wonderful patrons. It's with your amazing help that I can spend more time on video research and materials. So thank you guys, your help is really appreciated. Remember to subscribe, give this video a like, press the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos that are coming up soon. I look forward to hearing from you in the comment section. I answer almost all of the comments, so guys, please let me know what you think, or if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Hope you have a lovely day, and thank you for drawing with me. Oh, and make sure to watch these videos next.